So it's a little chilly outside, so I thought I'd do another video in front of the fire. And I know a lot of people like the fire videos, so why not do it if people like it? I don't see a huge increase in views, but I do see a bit of watch time increase, which I guess is good. And today I just thought I'd ramble on about a bunch of things. But before I start, I got a secret to tell you. Shh! Don't tell anybody! Because the last two videos I made in front of the wood stove, I reached over to grab some kindling, and is that a gun in your back? Does you have a gun? Jeez, grow up. So I'm gonna load the wood stove up. I just can't imagine 60, 70-year-old people getting all freaked out because I've got a gun in my back in my own home. Whatever. I don't even have to hide it. I mean, in the state of Missouri, I don't even have to conceal it. I don't even have to have a license. I can carry it right out in public, right on my chest. It's quite legal. I've been a little interested in what's going on in the politics in the world, and as of late, the last 2 weeks. What's interesting is when I make videos like this, I get a bunch of people telling me, "Oh, I'm not watching your videos anymore. I didn't know you supported Trump." Nowhere have you ever heard me say that I support Trump. As a matter of fact, not that I'm anti-Trump, because I'm not, but I'm actually pretty critical of Trump. He did a lot of things in his last term that I did not like. And what I found so fascinating was every time I make a video about the politics of the world, somebody would say, "Well, Trump's going to save us." And I would always come back with another video saying, you shouldn't hold your breath. Although, I will say I'm pretty impressed with a few things that's going on right now. The border thing is just absolutely incredible. I'm seriously impressed with that. We're getting the bad guys off the street, and that's great. And then I'm sure a lot of you have heard about some of the wasteful spending that's been going on. And you got to be careful. I mean, obviously this video is going to be restricted by YouTube. Anytime I talk about certain things, YouTube just restricts the video. So this will go out to probably the most loyal viewers. I'll probably get about maybe 1,000 to 1,500 views on this video. Even though I know that people like the fire videos. Now, of course, this is Super Bowl weekend, so who knows? That might have a problem. Of course, this will be released on Saturday, so. But some of the money that we were spending, here's the thing. I was talking to Carolyn about this yesterday. I don't know how many people are like me, but ever since I was very young in the military, I knew there was something going on. You just felt it. It was in your subconscious. You knew something wasn't right about our government. When I was in the Navy, there was a $20,000 hammer they bought, and a toilet seat that was thousands and thousands of dollars. And of course, the government made excuses why it was okay. I'm going to interrupt this video real quick and ask that if you get to the end of this video, you click that next box. It'll take you over to my other channel where we're working on a lawnmower. When you hear $36 trillion, it would take you, I think it would take you, if you counted $1, 1, 2, until you got to 36 trillion, it would take you something like 1 million years to count that far or something like that. Obviously, you couldn't do it. So, we're just so far in debt. And when I was in my 30s, I knew about the debt clock. And back then, I thought it was outlandish, and we weren't even in the trillions yet, I don't think. And I think I figured it up that every man, woman, and child owed like $146,000. As soon as you're born. I don't know how accurate I was. Apparently, I wasn't that accurate because that's, I guess, what we owe now. But regardless, it was devastating to me back then, and I just couldn't understand it. They say that Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security is the biggest drain on it all. And I do understand that a bit. I do get it. But since we pay into it and we have to have it back, we were promised that if you paid it in, that you would get money back. That was the deal. It would seem like it would be the responsibility of our government to make sure they kept that promise. Of course they didn't. So now I think I understand that we won't even be able to pay the interest here shortly. That we won't have enough money to pay the interest. Can you imagine if you did that to your bank, that you didn't pay the interest? They would come after you and sue you and ruin your credit. You'd never be able to buy anything again. Remember, I was hurt in an accident, car accident, in 1999, and I wasn't able to pay for my truck. Of course, they came and got the truck and just destroyed me. For the longest time, I was in serious trouble financially because I was in an accident. It wasn't even like, I made a bad decision. I was just in an accident. Couldn't work. Broke all my ribs. Don't quote me, but I think my spleen tried to detach. I mean, I was in bad shape. 2 people in the back seat of that vehicle died. You make a mistake or you get in a financial bind completely out of your control, and they ruin your life for years. But here we are looking at Congress and it's like, who cares? $36 trillion, that's nothing. I mean, let's just say it's $146,000. And all of a sudden, we have to just spit that out. We have to, China or somebody wants that money. And they want it now. Do you have $146,000 to pay? I don't. I don't have that. Where would I come up with it? So I'm in debt. You may not believe this, but I am in debt right now. I always say I'm debt free. I'm not debt free because I'm in debt $146,000 that I can't pay off. I have no way of paying it off. And someday, somebody's going to want their money. We start getting information about something I always had this little gut feeling was happening in our world. NGOs. They're talking about NGOs, non-governmental organizations. That was the first thing I heard about. And what is that? I've never heard that before. And I have always paid pretty close attention to politics. I traveled a lot when I was younger, in my 30s. I owned my own business and had to travel all over the country. So I was always listening to actually I had satellite radio. And I was always listening to those conservative hosts and different things. And I would listen to Hannity and Combs and all that. I'd listen to both sides. And I guess it was Hannity and Combs on Fox and it was Combs on the radio. So I would listen to him on the radio. Regardless, I just had a lot of time on my hands. That's what you did. You listened to the radio. So I listened to AM radio. Well, satellite radio. It was AM then when I got my last car. It was satellite radio. And I've never heard of an NGO, non-government. So what these organizations are is private organizations that are not accountable to the government. So the government gives money to the NGOs. Okay, so who's writing this check? You hear government and you think, the president must be signing that check, obviously. That's what it is. He knows about these organizations. He's got it all under control. We voted for him. And then you hear about a shadow government, and you're like, that's a conspiracy theory. Well, why do we have so many federal employees? What are they doing? There's just so many of them. You can't even keep track. It's just out of your mind. It's almost like trying to count to $36 trillion. You can't do it. How do you keep track of all these federal employees? What are they doing? I remember one time I went into a Social Security Administration building. And you think, okay, well, it's a nice building, yeah, but it's got a few employees. Okay, that makes sense, an office building. They're working with the people coming in to get, I was trying to adopt my daughter. We had to get her last name changed, a new Social Security card. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a federal building with federal employees. And a location that takes care of several counties. It was in St. Louis is where we ended up going. South St. Louis and Fenton, Missouri is where it was at. And we had to drive like 2 hours to get to it. The next closest one, I guess it was the closest, but I didn't know how to get to that one, was in Columbia, Missouri. I didn't know how to get to that one, so we went to Fenton, Missouri. So you think, okay, so they got 25, 30 employees maybe? And you got a bunch of them. Okay. What else is there? What other federal employees is there? Okay, you got national forests, national parks, and you think, okay, yeah, I went to the Arch one time. I've been to a national forest once. I saw a ranger once. And you kind of get an idea. But when they're talking about the size of government, you're like, what are they doing? What is their job? It's mind-boggling. And so you're always wondering, $36 trillion and all these employees. I think, don't quote me, this may not be true. Walmart might be bigger, I don't know. But I think in the United States, federal government is the largest employer. Again, that may not be true, but I've heard that one time and I've never really verified it. But I would believe it. It's not hard to believe that it's the largest employer. In a society that's supposed to be a capitalist society, a private entity where you make your own business, make your own money. And the federal government, you know, this is supposed to be the freest country in the world, and the federal government is the largest employer. And it's mind-boggling. So you hear about NGOs, and okay, that doesn't make sense. You mean we're paying people to just distribute money? We pay private companies, private entities, private organizations, NGOs, to distribute money as they see fit because government is not allowed to do it. This is my understanding. The money they send to these NGOs is money they cannot send out themselves because it's not legal. They cannot legally send out money to, I don't know, the public library. I don't know, but I'm just using an example. So they give the money to an NGO, and the NGO pays this entity that's not legally able to get paid by the government. And well, that's a little slippery slope there, don't you think? We make a law saying you can't spend money there, and then we figure a loophole. And then we send an auditor in and say, hey, we want, you know, we elected this president, and he's gonna, and who hired a guy who's working for free, who's auditing the government. We're gonna audit the government. Oh my goodness, don't do that. You can't do that. Wait a minute. We can't audit the government, but we can hire 80,000 IRS agents so we can audit people who made $600 in PayPal? Those people are the criminals. The people who made $600, we got to go after them. But when we talk about $36 trillion, oh no, that's all legit. What are you talking about? We don't need to be audited. Even though we hear stories like the military, Department of Defense, some few $billion are not accounted for. They just lost it. It's gone. What do you mean it's gone? A few $1 billion? And you hear this all the time. You know, every now and then a little story comes out. And I think what they do is they let these little stories slip out. So guys like me who think, where is it? There's got to be an explanation that this money is being spent somehow that I don't understand. Oh, okay, so there's a few $1 billion that got lost. But that doesn't add up to $36 trillion. We send this auditor in there, and he finds USAID. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get a troll say, oh, I know exactly what it is. You're an idiot for not knowing. But again, I've listened to the radio my entire life. Well, a good portion of my life, until I got here. And I've never really heard of it. What is it? What is it? So it is a department that was developed by JFK back in the 60s with an executive order. Now, it's been kind of solidified a little bit through Congress, but it can still be restructured quite easily through an executive order. It's not an actual department. It's just an entity responsible for foreign aid. Okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, foreign aid, we want that. Congress made laws saying we should pay foreign aid. Great. But then you hear about all this waste of things I'm not going to talk about on this video because I'm sure they'll shut it down even worse than what I think they're going to shut it down. It's insane what they're spending it on. Just insane. They do a temporary restructuring and they give the Marco Rubio, they give him the authority over this USAid. And he lays off 10,000 employees. 10,000 employees? Why is there 10,000 employees for this entity that I've never heard of? What did they do? I mean, foreign aid, okay. Let me understand this. We need a guy to write a check to Kenya because they're starving to death. How many employees does it really take to write a check to Kenya? Apparently 10,000. So Mark Rubio, who is now a secretary, laid off 10,000 of them. He kept like 247 employees. Okay, that sounds reasonable, which still sounds a little high. I mean, how many people do you really need to send a check to Kenya? Apparently it's 247, which is still a little high for me, but whatever. That's better than 10,000. And they're screaming, we've lost our jobs, we lost our jobs. And what's interesting is, from my point of view, they're more upset about the auditor auditing the books than they are about the 10,000 people being unemployed. Can you imagine if Chrysler or GM or Tyson Foods lay off 10,000 employees? Oh, the federal government be holding hearings and wondering what the heck's going on, and why is that happening? Can't do that. But they're not worried about it. They're worried about their own pocketbooks, because there are suspicions that USAID sends money out to these insane things I can't talk about. So let's say they send some money down to Puerto Rico, a couple million, let's just say it's $100 million. They send it down to Puerto Rico. There are suspicions that Puerto Rico sends a little bit of that money back to whoever approved this money. So 100 million goes down there, and then they send 15 million back to the person. So the taxpayer just sent it down to Puerto Rico, and 15 million into the hands of one of those 10,000 employees, or a congressperson maybe. But today I saw the most ugliest display I've ever seen at the Department of Education. And whether it's legal or not is I don't know. That is up for the lawyers and the judges and the Supreme Court and all that. I don't know if this is legal, but a bunch of Congress people went up to the Department of Education's doors at the building. And there was a security guard standing outside the door, says you're not allowed to enter. He's the greatest American hero I've ever seen. These people are screaming at him, and they're doxing him, telling everybody on camera what his name is, and that he's a horrible individual, and we pay you. No, congressperson, you don't pay him. I pay him, and he's being told to do a job. He's a blue-collar worker. He's just a Joe Schmo like everybody else, and you're treating him like a criminal. On TV, he didn't sign up for that. He signed up for standing in front of the door today. And they're harassing him and doxing him. And I mean, I know his name because they said it, but I'm not going to tell you because I'm not going to dox him. His first name was Jim. Here's what I would hope that you would find this video. It's an 18-minute video. And I'm sure by now everybody's playing it. I'd like for you to write your congressman. I wrote my congressman. And I said, I want these people publicly disciplined, the Congress people, for harassing this worker. That's all he was doing. He was just doing his job. He wasn't being mean. They asked for his identification. He gave his identification. And they just wouldn't stop. They put him on camera. Get a look at this man's face. He's going to go down in history. I want those people punished. So write your congressman and tell your congressman that you want these people punished for doing that. Explain the video to him. Say it's Jim. And I'm sure you can look it up, what his last name is. And I would hope that you would ask your congressman for those Congress people that went out in front of the Department of Education or harassed that man, that they individually apologized to Jim on the floor of Congress. Invite Jim over to the Congress building, make each one of those stand up and give a formal apology in front of the cameras and everybody. That was sickening and should not happen. Those congressmen are supposed to be defending that man. He pays their wages. They don't pay his. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video on my other channel where we're working on some sort of lawnmower. So if I can inspire you, I don't know, be happy so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.